Welcome into another episode of Behind the Catch Fence. I'm your host, David Hoffman. We're here live from the Man Cave once again, and of course, we're back from St. Petersburg. It was a lot of fun. A lot of sweat was had with that, a lot of sunburn, but hey, it was a lot of fun. And now we're back to full-time interview episodes. So today, as you can see in the title screen, it is the James Hinchcliffe edition, a new chapter, episode 43. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We had James on the show so many times before. This is now the fourth time. So to have the Mayor of Hinchtown on once again, it's always great to see him. So if you're wondering, what are we going to be talking about? Well, we discuss his first initial week being a full-time employee for NBC Sports. We talk about his friend Robert Wickens, obviously seeing Robbie being able to, hop back into a race car and get a podium in IMSA a couple weeks ago at Daytona. Great to see that. We talk about a lot of other topics, and of course, we have to ask, what does he want to defy the most in 2022? Since defy everything is still, unfortunately, the motto for IndyCar the past two seasons, or program, whatever it's called. Defy everything. So you guys need to defy everything. Think of something, right in the comments below. What do you want to defy the most this year? Whether that's racing related or personal, I don't know. I don't know what I want to defy the most, but let's get into the episode. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite snack. It could be, I'm trying to think. Let's look around. We could even, let's see. We could have some, here we go. I've been loving to eat these here recently. You could have, sit back, relax, grab your favorite snack, and have some Ritz crackers with a little pepperoni on top and a little cheese on top. You don't have to melt it. It's just simple, easy to eat. Love to have those as a great little midnight snack-ish, since I like to stay up late, watch races, whatever else. But thank you guys for tuning in, and enjoy this episode with James Hinchcliffe. Hey James,
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can. You got me?
Yeah, I got you. So how have you been? I know the heat was pretty brutal in St. Pete. Have you been able to recover from that?
Not in the air conditioned television booth, my friend. It was beautiful.
That's true. I know you were doing a lot of walking. I remember seeing you when you were going to do some turn reporting or something. I'm assuming you prefer the booth than being in the turns and being close to the action, or does it kind of depend?
It kind of depends. I mean, obviously, it's great to be a part of it either way, and there are pros and cons to both positions. I definitely got to say, after my stint in 2020, mainly working in pit lane, I give a ton of credit to those guys, to Kevin and Dave and Marty and everybody that contributes, because it's not easy. It's a tough job. I think we have it a little bit cushier up in the booth with the air conditioning and the shade, like I said. But no, I love either one.
And obviously, it was your first time, and now it's your full-time job. What were the nerves like going into that, knowing it's not just a kind of side type of thing? It's not your full-time job.
I mean, it's definitely different. There's a little more on the line, I guess, so to speak, and you feel a little more responsibility to make sure that the show goes off well, and you do the job that you're supposed to do. But in comparison to the nerves that I would normally be getting that time of day at that particular place, it was no problem.
And obviously, this is the fourth time you've been on the show. I appreciate your time. We haven't been able to talk about this yet. Kind of what went into deciding that you were going to make the switch from being in the cockpit to into the booth?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly a combination of a lot of things, both kind of on the personal side and on the professional side that contributed to it. And ultimately, it was one of those situations where the timing was just right. It would have been really easy to sort of look at it and try to dream up some scenario where we could maybe do this or maybe do that, or try to make this work and whatever. And that would have been a purely emotional and a very irrational decision to make. So fortunately, I was able to kind of remove myself from it a little bit and look at the 30,000 foot view. And the broadcasting side of it has always been something I've had in my eye on, and was always sort of the next step. And with NBC getting a new IndyCar for the next 3 seasons. And like I said, some of the factors, just in my side of things, the timing was right. And it was always going to be interesting going to St. Pete and seeing how that felt. And I felt great in the role that I was in. Obviously I miss driving Indy cars. They are incredible machines and the racing is, the best in the world. But I did the right thing. I'm in the spot I should be in.
And, obviously you were in St. Pete. What was the atmosphere like? Because I know that was, walking around, that's probably one of the bigger venues that I've been at just in terms of fan interaction. What was your point of view from that?
I mean, the fan turnout was incredible. I mean, I noticed it on Friday for a typical Friday at St. Pete. That was a tremendous amount of people. And then Saturday and Sunday again, they really just came out in droves. And, we've obviously raced at St. Pete throughout the last couple of seasons, but it was never full capacity. And, we had to do one of them at the end of the season and whatever. So it's not been exactly kind of old fashioned St. Pete. And so maybe that's a part of it, but I mean, man, it was awesome to see. I mean, Florida's kind of been open for a while, so I don't think it was a ton of just people wanting to get out. I think genuinely the series is growing, and that race is one of our best races. It's one of our best markets. The city really gets behind it, and the promoters do a great job. So it was just great to see so many fans turn out.
Honestly, it almost felt like that's probably the closest that I've ever felt for close to the Indy 500 in terms of just you're trying to get through the sea of people, but then it's also like I'm not gonna be able to get anywhere on time. It was, yeah.
No, for sure. And, I think then in Long Beach is another one that I think that the street circuit layout definitely makes it more challenging to move people around and sort of, it sort of tunnels or it sort of corrals you into certain, thoroughfares of foot traffic. But no, those are 2 great events and a lot of people come out to them. It's great to see it.
And kind of looking back on the first weekend as a broadcaster, what do you feel are some things that, looking back on, you want to be able to improve, going forward with the season?
I mean, I think just as a driver, in this new role, I'm going to use that same high level of criticism, self-criticism. You're always looking to improve and do things better, and I'm going to watch back the race. I know there's a couple little things that I just remember off the top of my head in terms of timing of certain things and pacing what you say and keeping it concise, but, informative. And there's always little ways you can improve. And the team there is great. Working with Townsend and Lee is, I'm so lucky to get to do that because they really are 2 professionals, and the whole crew there made it really easy for the new guy to jump in and almost sound like he knew what he was talking about.
That's an understatement. What are we talking about? You know what you're doing. Switching to the race itself. What were your thoughts on how the race played out with McLaughlin notching his first win?
Phenomenal. I mean, his qualifying performance was unreal. To beat Will Power in qualifying there, period, is one of the hardest things to do statistically speaking, and the fact that he did it in the same car, and I mean that really highlights how good that lap was, and by a comfortable margin by IndyCar standards. So that was quite awesome to see, and it was interesting to keep that up throughout the course of the race, because obviously Scott had some good events last year, but we never saw like a ton of running at the front to sort of know how he would handle that. Not that he's new to running at the front, he's a 3-time V8 champion. So then for me on Sunday, just controlling the race with the way he did, it was like he was driving his his Mustang again in supercars. He was just completely composed. His pace on reds at the beginning was the best in the field. And then for me, the 2 sort of key moments were that outlap from that last stop. Palou had the overcut on him. And in theory, for the distance behind that he should have passed him. So between the pit work from the 3 crew and Scott's outlap, that's what won them that race. It really did. It was incredible to see him stay out in front of the 10 there. And then at the end, catching traffic with it's a handful of laps to go with the reigning champion on your gearbox is the last thing that you want to see. But again, that's where, I think his experience in top level motorsports really shone and really showed through. Didn't get flustered, didn't get bothered, just kept his head down and got the job done. So couldn't be happy for him. He's such a cool dude, such a nice guy. And it was great to see him notch up that first win.
Honestly, looking back at it, I know you ran Bathurst a couple years ago in those supercars, and I know we've talked about it before, but to be able to come over from having so much just competition level in those type of cars to go to an open wheel car, what the difficulty level to not only be able to adapt to an IndyCar, but also be able to compete and win at the highest level. I mean, that has to be pretty impressive.
No doubt. I mean, the transition from a supercar to an Indy car is a tremendous one. As you said, I know because I went the other way. But yeah, I mean, you look at the level of dominance that he had over there and came over here, and in year one, there were, obviously a lot of struggles getting used to the car, the style of racing, all the tracks are new. And so, he's really made a statement, by showing up to St. Pete, obviously a track that now he's finally, is the one track he's been to more than once. This is his third time there, but, kind of showing everybody that after a race weekend of experience and track time at some of these places that were new to him last year, he could be a very, very serious contender and a very serious threat week in and week out.
Whoa, now, before we continue on with this legendary episode 43, a new chapter with James Hinchcliffe, we have to talk about Racer Collect. Now, James, he has a lot of his stuff that goes through Racer Collect, whether it's fire suits, race-used boots, gloves, anything that you could possibly think of, he sells through Racer Collect. Now, Racer Collect, you're able to get race-used memorabilia, you're able to get original art. Another one of our favorites, one of our friends of the show, Alex Wakefield, he sells his art through Racer Collect, and Racer Collect is such a great, from Indiana, and they sell a lot of great stuff. So make sure to check them out. I'll link them in the description as well. So make sure to go check out Racer Collect. And let's get back to this episode with James Hinchcliffe. We're moving on to growing to Texas Motor Speedway here in about 2 weeks, something like that. How do you think the racing is going to be, knowing that PJ1 is still kind of there, and I heard it was still a one-lane track and testing the other week or something?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that maybe the NASCAR guys used a different kind of traction compound. I know the name. Jimmy was telling us about it a little bit. The hope is that it's going to be better. In testing, it's always kind of a one-lane place just because you don't have that many cars and there's not a lot of rubber on the track. But yeah, man, I'm cautiously pessimistic, to steal an Alexander Rossi line, if I'm being totally honest. Since the repave in 17, it's just not been the same. And then since they started using the traction compound, it really has made racing there very tough. We did see a good race there last year. Joseph and Pato going at it. That was a pretty entertaining race, and Pato did a great job to get ahead of Joseph there at the end. But it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. It's right in the middle of the day, noonish start time. It's going to be hotter than Hades, and that does not usually promote great racing. IndyCar has tried to help with a little bit more downforce than what we ran last year, which I think is a huge help and a step in the right direction. I hope it's enough of a step. And,
you mentioned Jimmy Johnson. I know the big firm belief is he'll do a whole lot better on the ovals. I mean, what are some of the hurdles that he'll have to go through, even though he has run on the Cup side of things so many times at that track, trying to adapt to an IndyCar throughout the weekend?
It's going to be a challenge for sure. The last time we saw a Cup guy jump into an Indy car, was Kurt at Speedway, and you have the benefit of, 25 hours of practice or whatever it is. I think we have an hour before qualifying at Texas is usually the program. So it's going to be a huge ask, because he does have such preconceived notions of that track, and he has very, very little oval experience in an open wheel car. He's done a test day there, so he knows his way around, so to speak. But when you look at all the drivers that have gone the other way, getting used to the feel of a Cup car out of an Indy car and how much it moves and how much you can feel the tire and all these things, it's the exact opposite, obviously. So, Jimmy, in a sense, is almost going to have to tune his senses a little bit, because he's used to these big movements. and these big inputs from the car. Whereas in the IndyCar, especially on the oval, it's the finest little movements that you've got to be able to sense and react to. And that's why some of the IndyCar guys, they struggle so much, because it's like sensory overload in the car because it moves so much. You're like, that's crashing in an IndyCar. Just turning in is crashing every time. So I think reclocking and recalibrating your mind a little bit is going to be the biggest challenge there for him.
And kind of looking, obviously it was announced that the hybrids, they're going to be pushed back a little bit to, I believe, 2024 or something like that. I know I've heard a lot of drivers kind of chime in on it. What are your thoughts on like them pushing it back, and what you would, if being a driver yourself, what would you like to see like the process look like?
I mean, I'd like to see the new engine come with a new car. I think, now that we have a sort of gimme year that we weren't anticipating, the timing is great to try to do that all in one go. I know that there's some expense hesitation from the team owner side, but I think there was even an article in Racer the other day with quotes from quite a few team either managers or owners saying, yeah, it'll suck, but it's got to happen at some point. We might as well just bite the bullet and do it now. This car has served us well, but it's definitely antiquated, and we've had to make so many adjustments to it. Just building a new bespoke car with everything that we've learned over the lifetime of the DW12, I think would be great. Timing with the new engine is great. I understand why they had to do it. It's the right call given the circumstances. As a driver, you want a new toy, right? Like you want the new engine, you want more power, you want something else to develop and learn from. But yeah, I mean, ideally, how do I want to see it play out? I would love them to just say, you know what, let's turn this into a good thing. This is, obviously not a great thing that's happened, having to delay it, but we can kind of spin this in our favor if we kind of commit to a new car.
How would you I know there's been a lot of just questions, well, how's the aero screen going to fit on it? Or, that whole kind of Twitter war per se that Will Buxton had kind of started. What were your thoughts on, I guess, kind of how the aero screen should fit on the car? Should it be a halo? That kind of thing.
I think that we've proven the benefits of having the screen, to be totally honest. It does come at a cost, especially when it was an afterthought to the chassis design. And so I think if we have a new car, we can address those things from, the initial design phase, and it'll eliminate a lot of the negatives. So from a new car perspective, I think it'd be silly to go any other route than an aero screen. I see where guys come from with the current generation car, not running it maybe at street courses only or something like that, and just having the halo. I see where they come from. Not necessarily saying I agree, but I can see the argument. But if you're starting from scratch, I don't see the argument. It's undoubtedly a safer design than just a halo. And as a guy that's been hit in the head by a piece of debris that was small enough to get past the halo, I think I'm an appropriate guy to comment on that part. So yeah, I mean that's I think ultimately it is. If we get the opportunity for a new chassis, then yeah, it's a no-brainer.
I'm kind of moving on. Last month, February, your friend Robert Wickens earned a podium in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. I know you were in the pits during that. What was the emotion just from you knowing that how much he's had to go through to get back to this moment?
I was actually, I was on the grid for when he was getting in the car, but then I had to work, they threw me on the broadcast. So, we were showing an in-car camera of Robbie on the pace lap. And I had to hold back tears quite literally, because it was just such a cool moment to experience after, kind of being there with him through a lot of what he's had to go through over the last few years to get to that point. And, to see him pull off to see him just racing the way that he always did, man, it was just awesome. And to come away with the podium, I mean, they were so close to getting that second place at one point, and his teammate Mark did a great job on that last stint to keep them on the podium under some pretty heavy pressure there. So yeah, it was such a fun race, on top of the result obviously just being phenomenal for Rob and for the whole Reinhardt Autosports team. And yeah, I'm excited. I hate that we've had to wait, all this time to see him do it again, and that we've got to be in Texas, and I don't get to be in Sebring to watch the second one.
And I know there's been kind of random talks of could he join a race for the SRX? How cool would that be to see him run in an SRX car, knowing that you were a part of like the broadcast last year.
Oh, it'd be great, man. I mean, he's perfect for that series, and that series obviously is it was a lot of fun to be a part of, and I think it'd be an awesome opportunity for him to get to be in it, and it's honestly, I think from a mechanical standpoint, less of a challenge than what he's doing in the Michelin pilot car. So hopefully there's a solution that the gang there can whip together for him, and he gets a chance to go turn some laps on one of those things.
And final two questions. Is there an opportunity for you kind of going forward to maybe drive some type of car, or is it kind of like focusing mainly on broadcasting for the near future?
No, I mean I think 2022 might be a little bit of a gap year from the driving standpoint. Just the way some things transpired. There was one program that we were pretty close to getting done that just didn't happen for one reason or another. But the plan is to do a couple fun things this year, maybe a few one-offs and something that I wouldn't otherwise have had the opportunity to do. But the plan is very much to still be on a grid full time in 23 somewhere.
Awesome. But yeah, final question. I spoke with Jade Gers. I know you've worked with him before. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago. And he mentioned how you're one of his favorite people of all time. Just want to mention that. And he also gave me a question to ask you.
Okay.
So what is your most valuable lesson inside the race car that you're going to be able to share with us, the fans on TV?
Oh, wow. I think that I don't know if it's one kind of specific lesson necessarily, but it's more just being able to sort of understand the mindset of a driver in a specific scenario. There are going to be things that pop up that from the outside might look like X, but through my experience and lessons learned in the car, I know the driver's probably feeling Y. And I think that distinction is going to be, one of the important things that I can bring to this broadcast, hopefully. And, one of my favorite things has always been educating people about IndyCar racing. I love meeting people at the track for the first time, or people that have never been to an IndyCar race, because there's so much for them to learn. And every time we have that conversation, the sport leaves with another lifelong fan. So hopefully some of those driving lessons and experiences translate and can be shared with the viewers at home.
And I also did think of one more question. So I know I asked you this the last time when Rossi, he had asked it to you, like, what do you want to defy the most in 2021? So how about this season? What do you want to defy the most in 2022?
Oh, man. 2022, we want to oh no, that comes out wrong. We want to defy records. We want to set records. We want record attendance at races. We want record viewership on broadcasts. We want record number of race winners. We want record number of first-time winners. We want just a thrilling season. And so records is what we want to defy in 2022.
I like that. You couldn't have done that any better. James, I appreciate all your time. Fourth time on the show, always great seeing you. And hopefully you'll be back on here soon.
Absolutely, man. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of episode 43, A New Chapter with James Hinchcliffe. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's always a joy having James Hinchcliffe on the show 4 times, and that's pretty wild. I think he was one of the first original guys to be on the show, to agree to be on the show, back when this show was a little baby. Now we're big baby. I don't know. But yeah, so James, he's always gracious, always love talking to James, and hopefully he continues to do well in the booth. Obviously, you guys have seen it. He's just a natural. And maybe we'll see him in a race car next year in some capacity. But, it's always a joy talking to him. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow this podcast on Twitter and Instagram @BehindCatch. But I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys later.